Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Tuesday, September 3rd, Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks to those of you who are here and those who are joining us online or on TV. Clerk, we'll go ahead and get started by reading our roll, please.
Councilmember Starr.
Here.
Staley. Here. Recky. Erickson. Here. Kiley.
Here.
Neitzert.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
Sale.
Here.
All right, for our invocation tonight, we're pleased to have Pastor Tim Valentine here with Celebrate Church. And Celebrate's been a good partner with the city in leading us in invocation. So Tim, thanks for being here. I'd ask that you rise for Tim to give our invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Father God, thank you so much, first and foremost, just for another day with breath in our lungs. God, we just appreciate so much those that are willing to step forward and lead our city and give of their time and their leadership, and we just want to pray your blessing over them. We want to pray your blessing not only over their decisions tonight, giving them wisdom, Father, but also just pray over their families. Pray over their personal lives, because we know they give up so much to do this. So thank you for that, God. Thank you for everything that goes tonight, all the emotions and everything that are brought forward, God. Just thank you for leading and guiding and ultimately giving wisdom. You're awesome and amazing, Lord, and we just thank you for who you are. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to item 4, our consent agenda. Look for any changes or motions to be made there.
Move approval. Second, Kylie.
All right, motion to approve by Selberg, seconded by Kiley. Any discussion, council, on that?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull item number 20.
All right.
That's it for me.
All right, item number 20 off contracts and agendas, or contracts will be pulled in agreements. All right, any other changes? All right, we'll take a vote on that, please.
Councilmember Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson. Yes. Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Now move on to item 16, which is our regular agenda. Look for any changes or motions on that.
Move approval. Second, Sale.
All right, motion approved by Selberg, seconded by Sale. Council discussion on that one. All right, we will vote, please.
Councilmember Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. We're at the general public input portion of tonight's agenda. As a reminder, input during this portion will last no more than 3 minutes per person, and in total last no more than 30 minutes. During general public input, the public is welcome to speak on any topic that does not appear later on in the agenda. For regular agenda items following general public input, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item is being presented for final adoption, in which case public input is limited to 5 minutes. For all regular agenda items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration only. So at this time, I'd like to invite members of the public forward for general public input. And clerk, please note our time is 7:04 p.m. Good evening.
Hello, Mayor, Council. I'm James. And it usually takes a lot to piss me off. Okay? Because I'm a very, very spiritual, very loving person. We got kicked out because somebody made some accusations, which my motel room is full of black mold, everything. And some of my heirlooms were stolen. It usually takes a lot, but I'm not a hateful person, okay? I've been working for 4 weeks now with a broken hand. No pain pills because I don't want to do pain pills because that's I'm just mad. Because I have tried everywhere I possibly can to find a place. And I keep getting the runaround. I mean, I'm 60 years old. I mean, enough's enough. I can hardly breathe because I have COPD. If I was to have an operation, I'd be paralytic, but I still work. I'm not even supposed to pick up 10 pounds, but I still do it. I bust everything I have. Right now, my car needs 2 doors. I can't even get them fixed. I have to take a bungee cord to hold them shut. I'm getting tired. I'm getting so tired. Yeah, there is one church up on 10th Street, which community outreach is supposed to help us, but I can't find a place because of my situation. I mean, my God, I got out in 2012. I've helped cops. I helped officers. I've helped people. I did everything for people. I walked across the street to tell this guy, hey, look, you want to hit this girl? Hit this girl. That's how I was. I'm not asking for nothing because my glory is going to be up above. I don't like asking for nothing. I have helped more people than anyone could ever imagine. I even helped people at the Dooley House before, the Gospel Mission before. I have given them things. And now I'm losing everything. I have helped and helped and helped and helped. Where's mine?
Thank you, James.
I'm not mad at you all. You do good work. Okay?
Thank you, James.
Good evening. My name's Heather Pastor. Follow up what my fiance was saying. Okay, I have a list here, not an actual list, but this is just verbal list. I'm getting tired of people with their lies. I'm getting tired of slanders. I'm getting tired of being kicked out of my own over drug addicts, instigators. See here, me and my fiance the only reason we were living where we were living at was because we could not get in no place before. We went through this before. We literally gave the Rushmore Motel over 90 grand for over 3 years out of our own pocket just to have a roof over our head. I've been slandered and kicked out in the missions. I've been called a street punk a couple times. I've been physically attacked by people. Now, me and my fiance are living in our car. We had to get a storage unit over the weekend. Now, it's back to everywhere we go. People come out at us, accusing us of stuff, running us off their properties. Oh, because everybody else does this means that they think that that's what me and my man would do. The only reason we lived there was to have a place to live. My fiance has helped the landlords, the people there, only to have people break in our place, jump my fiance, threaten me. There was black mildew in our place, and we still can't find a place to live. Now look, my fiance, I'm not going to beat around the bush about this. He is on the register list. But like he said, that his past crime was a long time ago. He's helped society, and we've given food to people. We've given rides to people. He even gave somebody $60 one time to get one night just to keep them off the street. My man works. I'm still working on my civil matter, and now we're homeless in our car where people are randomly coming out at us accusing us of stuff. And I really wish there's some way somebody could find a fixer-upper house and just give him and I a break to get into a house that we can afford to live in. My friend today, who is a friend of mine because she knew my mom before my mother passed away, and my mother went through a lot of the same thing before she died, drove all around to take us places to try to find a place, and it was, nope, can't live here, won't live there, can't, crime-free here, won't rent to you here. I'm kind of fed up. I mean, you got two decent people that do anything for anybody. And this is the runaround game we get. I want to have a place of my own. I mean, I don't understand why somebody just can't give us a fixer-upper and say, you know what, you guys can have this. You guys can pay for it, whether it's rent or rent to own. Just give us a break. We're not criminals. We're not drug addicts. We don't do criminal activities, but it's other people. God bless.
Thanks, Heather. Good evening.
Hi, Stephen Ciano. Last time I came here, I missed my key point because previous to that, there was one of you that was pushing for public funds to be used for private charity, and this body voted it down. Imagine that, the concept that you shouldn't use public funds for private charity. Well, I mention again, I believe it is a criminal act to yourself to donate public land for a private charity, as in the case of the Veterans Cemetery. And I recommend that you instead reach into your pockets and pay fair market value. Then it'll be your doing. It is yours then to give. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Dwayne Skipper, Sioux Falls. It's city budget approval time. The 2020 budget is the second year for the new mayor to recommend a 9% increase. Over 2 years, city residents will be obligated to pay $90 million more than the 2018 budget of $457 million. A very big share of this increase is water utility debt and expansion, and will be paid back 100% by continuing to increase city residents' water utility bills, which have tripled over the last 12 years. No tax revenue is spent on water utilities. Why are the mayor and council reluctant to suggest a plan to reduce department budget requests to help lower reliance on what citizens must pay for water, a necessity for life? Other tax revenue sources should be dedicated to help pay for the new $260 million wastewater debt. Our existing treatment plant wore out 15 years early, partly because of city growth. New development should be paying their share of this expense in all the new pipes that it needs to be useful. For all those visitors who we praise for their money spent in the city, sales tax is generated, and they also contribute to wearing out water utility infrastructure. This is just one reason that some sales tax revenue needs to be dedicated to those expenses. The mayor has the ability to transfer budget amounts between divisions with subsequent approval of the council. He can start by looking at his own mayor's department budget, increased 94% over the last 2 years. He can also scale back the 6 new employees in general government, one of which is the new made-up position, Chief Culture Officer. In my opinion, the most important responsibility of the council is to regulate how city residents' money is spent. Say no to this budget and require fair funding sources for water utilities. According to one member of this council, the council has 100% control to say yes or no. I suggest you use some of that power and forego the temptation to rubber stamp this city budget.
Thank you. Anyone else for public input tonight? All right, clerk, next item, please.
Consent. The next item is an item pulled from the consent agenda, item 20, Parks and Recreation, Midco Aquatic Center window fans to award an informal bid from Journey Construction, $45,797.35.
Councilor Starr.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my questions maybe Director Kearney, if you've got I'm trying to figure out what what window fans we're buying, and I'm trying to understand what the difference is in an informal bid. If we're buying fans, seems pretty formal process. Mr. Maris, I apologize, I should have pointed it out, but help me out.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Kelby Maris with Parks and Recreation. These fans will be dedicated, there's 9 of them, will be dedicated to the recreation pool area. If you'll remember, the whole south side of the recreation pool area is a curtain wall of glass. And the way to keep condensation off of glass is to wash it with air. The facility was constructed to industry standards, providing enough air on the windows in general to keep them nice and dry. However, due to our climates being 15 below outside and 88 degrees inside, we still do get a buildup of condensation, especially in some areas, and these 9 windows, or these 9 fans would help alleviate those concerns and would add to the longevity of not only the windows, but the curtain wall itself.
So what's the difference between, and probably not outside of your purview, and I apologize for that, but why is it called an informal bid rather than a formal bid? Did we go out and get bids for these fans?
That's a dollar limit thing, and once the bids go above $50,000, it's a formal bid process, and when it's under $50,000, it's an informal bidding process for projects such as these.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelby. Any other questions for Kelby? Is there a motion on
Move to
this?
approve Erickson.
Okay.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion approved by Erickson, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion, council? All right, we'll vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
No.
Staley? Yes. Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-1. Next item, please.
Item 18 is a transfer of 2019 retail liquor and 2019 packaged liquor licenses, including video lottery terminals, from Century Motels Incorporated, Ramada Inn and Suites, 1301 West Russell Street, to Jobu Hospitality LLC, Ramada Inn Water Park, 1301 West Russell Street. Item 19 is transfer of 2019 packaged liquor license from Heinemann Hospitality, Looks Market, 6213 Old Village Place, to 69th Street Looks Market LLC, 504 East 69th Street, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 20 is transfer of 2019 retail liquor license from ERJ Dining LLC, Chili's Grill and Bar, 3720 West 41st Street, to Brinker Restaurant Corporation, Chili's Grill and Bar, 3720 West 41st Street. Item 21 is new 2019 retail liquor license for Original Pancake House, 7215 West 41st Street, full-service restaurant, CUP not required. Item 22 is special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine license for Catering America to be operated at 2608 West Latigo Circle for a special event on September 12, 2019. Item 23 is a special one-day liquor license for Sioux Falls Sports Authority to be operated at Minnehaha Country Club, course only, 3101 West 22nd Street, for a PGA Tour Champions event to be held on September 15th to the 22nd, 2019. Item 24 is a special one-day liquor license for T-Slat Incorporated to be operated at Sanford Imaginetics, 1321 West 22nd Street, for a special event on September 20th, 2019. Item 25 is a special one-day liquor license for T-Slat Incorporated to be operated at Avera on Louise, 6100 South Louise Avenue, for a grand opening event on October 4th, 2019. Item 26 is a special one-day malt beverage license for The Banquet, 2101 East 26th Street, for a fundraiser on October 10th, 2019. Item 27 is a special one-day wine license for University of South Dakota Foundation to be operated at Sanford Imaginetics, 1321 West 22nd Street, for a fundraiser on September 28th, 2019.
Hi, Jamie.
Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on items 18 through 27. And I need to also request a amendment for item 19 to change the address from 504 East 69th Street to 500 East 69th Street.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Anyone from the public here to speak on any of these items tonight? Council, you have any questions for Jamie on these?
I'll make a motion to approve items 18 through 27.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Erickson and seconded by Counselor Kylie.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, if I can, to amend item 19 by replacing 504 East 69th Street with 500 East 69th Street.
Second.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Kylie on that amendment. Any discussion on that? Let's take a vote, please.
Vote on the amendment. Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0, so we're at the amended main motion. Is there any other discussion on that? All right, we'll take a vote on that, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson? Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 28.
Item 28 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota approving the naming of a facility space on public property.
Good evening, Russ.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors, City of Sioux Falls. My name is Russ Sorensen with the Planning and Development Services Department. With me this evening will be representatives from the Washington Pavilion team, Carrie DeGraff and Chelsea Cronin. For your consideration this evening is the second reading of a naming ordinance application that was submitted by the Washington Pavilion on behalf of Karen Bates Trimble to the city for naming one of the 8 art gallery spaces within the Visual Arts Center at the Washington Pavilion of Arts and Sciences. The current gallery space measures 1,417 square feet, is named the South Dakota Gallery. The proposed name, Bates Trimble Gallery, is what's on for your consideration this evening. In recognition of the naming, the proposed term and investment is a 10-year marketing partnership between the pavilion and the applicant Karen Bates Trimble that totals $100,000. The applicant would make 10 annual payments of $10,000. The payments would commence in 2019 and continue through 2028. The city staff has reviewed the sponsor naming agreements and have expressed no objections. On July 26th, the City Naming Committee considered the naming application and unanimously recommends approval. There have been no public comments received on this naming application. At this time, your consideration is requested to approve the naming ordinance.
All right, thanks, Russ. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item tonight? All right, Councilor, do you have any questions for Russ on this? Councilor Starr?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sorensen, help me a little bit. I want to thank her and the family. Give me a little bit of her history, why the arts are so important to her, or what you considered as part of the naming commission took a look at, and why she's gracing us with this gift. Because I think it's something that, as I go to the Washington Pavilion, I'd want to have an opportunity to tell my kids exactly why this gallery is named what it is.
You bet. I'm going to defer that to Ms. Cronin and also Ms. DeGraff to respond to that question.
Feel like I threw up a softball.
Thank you for your time tonight. So Karen Bates Trimble has a long history with Sioux Falls as well as South Dakota. She grew up right here in Sioux Falls, was born in 1944, attended Washington High School as a graduate of there as well. She also lost her son, Sean, who had attended school here as well. Carrie, would you like to share some additional information as well about Karen? All right. Karen especially felt the connection to Sioux Falls, and she does have a few endowments at the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation. And so she actually came to us saying that she felt really compelled to give back to her community. And this was kind of her way of doing so, especially with the connection with Washington High School. She loves what the pavilion does. She loves what the pavilion provides for everybody within our community, and just felt so strongly about the mission that that's really what drew her in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, that's great, thank you. Any other questions on this? Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for Russ, if I can. Thank you. Yeah, this is a wonderful gift. A little trivia maybe for the people here and at home, because I learn at least 20 new things a week in this gig, but at the meeting for this, I learned this too, that we actually have a naming committee in this city. So what is that comprised of? How many people and how long do you serve? And if anybody wanted to be on the naming committee, what do they do?
Sure. The City Naming Committee was established in 2013 by city ordinance. There are 9 members on that committee. We have 6 city directors and 3 citizens at large that are appointed by the mayor and as well as approved by the city council. They serve 2 3-year term limits. And the purpose of the city naming committee is to provide recommendations for city naming of facilities, spaces, and so forth within our city parks, our libraries. We have a city street naming committee, and that committee just looks at street names. It doesn't go through the city naming committee. But when the planning office receives the application, we kind of look at it and we'll go through, this is a parks application, this is a library application, or this is a city naming application. This is perhaps the city naming application that's before you this evening. And since 2013, I would venture to guess that we've probably had about 10 or 11 naming applications that have gone through the city naming committee.
Is there a minimum criteria to have your name put up for something, or is it just all up to the committee when the name's
No,
put
there are criteria by ordinance as far as the position of the naming and so forth. There is a contract agreement with the city, and there is a financial investment with that as well.
No, I didn't mean to get us off the topic at hand, but just thought it was kind of interesting and the committee behind this too, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor, any other questions for Russ or anyone else on this item? Look for a motion on it.
Move approval. Second.
All right, move to approve by Kylie, seconded by Selberg. Any discussion, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 29 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 430 West 11th Street from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the LW Live Work District number 10672 2019 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 4-0.
Hi, Jason.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Jason Bieber representing Planning and Development Services. This is an application and the owner is Mike Crane representing Lloyd Companies. It's located at 430 West 11th Street, just west of our downtown. It's about 0.96 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is they're looking to tear down the existing Bowden Youth Center and then construct a 3-story apartment complex with some possible office and small retail on the first floor.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Councilors, do you have any questions? Are you here to speak on this item? All right. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel Meyering. I'm here representing the Sioux Falls Board of Historic Preservation, of which I'm chair. At our meeting last week, we received public input on this issue and had some discussion about it and came to agreement that we would like to make a statement. And so I am here to give that statement. I'm here to acknowledge that pending your vote tonight, we are standing to lose a building that was built 80 years ago with the purpose of serving a neighborhood of Sioux Falls that had a need. The need was for education, and like all elementary schools, the building that answered that need became a hub of activity and a source of community pride and a place that gave the neighborhood roots. It was named Irving School, the same name of the neighborhood at that time that it was referred to as. It was designed by South Dakota Hall of Fame architect Harold Spitznagel, who was just starting out his prolific career and would go on to be called the foremost 20th century architect of the state of South Dakota. The school was described in the book South Dakota History, Volume 37, in this way. The 2-story building discarded the neoclassical revival theme prominent in institutional architecture at the time and featured patterned tan brick, large windows that brought in ample natural light into classrooms, and deft touches of the streamlined modern, seen especially in the use of glass block framing doorways and sleek stairways molded into terrazzo. I'm not here to protest affordable housing, but I'm here to question if this demolition of the building for new apartments is the highest and the best use of this land for this neighborhood. In other communities, schools like our Irving School have been turned not only into housing, but also into theaters, churches, community centers, artist communities, galleries, shopping centers, breweries, and the list goes on. There are other areas to build apartment buildings in this vicinity, but there is absolutely zero chance of another building being built like the one the applicant is planning to demolish. One built of brick and glass, designed by a now storied local architect, one of this size with many rooms, small and large, made to serve a neighborhood that still has many needs. The potential for this building to be repurposed and to continue to serve our community, and specifically the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood, is so great. And that possibility right now is teetering on the brink of destruction. As an advocate for historic preservation, opportunities like this are what get me really excited. For me, this is the highest calling of historic preservation. The opportunity for the greatest amount of good to come out of how we today treat the buildings of the past for the citizens of tomorrow. This is placemaking, neighborhood revitalization, and economic development. All of this has to do with historic preservation. I'm here tonight with the support of my fellow board members because I believe a mistake is about to be made. A mistake that can fall into a larger pattern where older buildings that lie outside of established historic districts aren't identified for their community building and economic development potential until it's too late to protect them from demolition. The Irving School building has architectural, cultural, and community significance. Its reuse has the potential to be a triumph of historic preservation, city planning, and neighborhood revitalization. It is for these reasons that the Sioux Falls Board of Historic Preservation supports a plan for the Irving School building that does not involve demolition. We also recommend that the city be proactive by identifying and surveying other buildings built mid-century and beyond that, when properly maintained and rehabilitated, can continue to tell the story of our city through historic preservation of architecture while meeting the unique needs of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight, please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Jake Kwasny with Lloyd Companies. I really do appreciate the notions of the Board of Historic Preservation. Those comments definitely are relevant when we look at a project like this, and when we were approached by the VOA to buy this property because it wasn't viable for them. They needed to stay within their program and consolidate to their facility in the south where they continue to provide those services. We did look at different ways to provide those services to the community, partnering with nonprofits like churches and various other nonprofits who've come in. We've looked at the facility, we've looked at what it would take to renovate it. And frankly, the dollars to do that and renovate this facility and bring it current to today just aren't there. The uses, if we talk about breweries and different retail uses like that, frankly, this corridor, as you're coming into Minnesota Street, the traffic patterns there, it's going to be a struggle to get somebody to pay the amount of money that we would need to make something like that work. When you look at this facility, it's run down. It no longer can serve that purpose. And when we're talking about the needs of the Pettigrew neighborhood, which are crucial, I mean, that's something that we want to invest in. I look right across the street, the YMCA today is still trying to serve that need. So if we're trying to invest in a group that's trying to do that, there's someone who is committed to this neighborhood and still providing those services for the people in the community. When we look at Pettigrew, there's a lot of housing there that frankly doesn't meet the standard that it should. And we're trying to change that, and that's what this will do.
Thank you, Jake. Anyone else here to speak on this tonight? Good evening.
Hi, my name is Alicia Cordes, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Irving School. And I am an advocate for historic preservation. I actually recently started a nonprofit about 3 years ago, and I am actively rehabilitating a school in Jasper, Minnesota. And so I have specific research that I have done for the past several years, and prior to that, on reuse of historic buildings just like schools. So I am fully aware of a lot of data. There is a myriad of information out there in the National Historic Preservation and National Trust websites. There's actually an entire report, a 90-page report called the Green Lab for Preservation. And that details evaluations all over the country of multiple climates, multiple buildings, and multiple cities that establish that not only is historic preservation and reuse of these buildings the most economically viable option, it's cheaper than new construction in the long run. Because when you're going into a building and you're repairing it and you're adding utilities, mechanical things like that, those are all things that have to go into a new building. You're putting them in anyway. But if you're adding the costs of demolition, the landfill costs, which taxpayers pay for, the subsidies that go into subsidizing housing, I think it's very, very important for the city to take a very proactive approach and not make any decisions until all of these options have been evaluated. Specifically, I would like to speak to the Shaped Sioux Falls 2040 plan. The proposed reuse, rezoning and demolition of this school actually contradicts a number of areas in that plan that was adopted in 2016. Pettigrew Heights has been designated a neighborhood conservation area, an area that was determined to need specific revitalization efforts. And those efforts in this plan actually several times call out preservation as one of the most important tenets and investment, incremental investment in the existing properties and structures. So asking neighbors, the community input is in section 8 that's called Shape Foundations. The plan is to conserve or revitalize older foundation neighborhoods using neighborhood planning and support programs. The best forms of neighborhood stabilization start with residents and small businesses, and these types of efforts are strongly promoted. So I would ask the city to follow the plan that has already been established and that was adopted. The benefits of older neighborhoods are lost when they slipped into deterioration and blight, and this property has been vacant for almost 2 years, but it doesn't need to be, because the money that would have to be spent to bring it up is not massive when you look at the fact that there's a lot of developers who do adaptive reuse, and they do it efficiently, and they do it with a moderate rehab, not complete gutting. The smartest rehab in these types of situations are not completely taking the building brand new on the inside. It's replacing mechanical, because the preservation research is that a building built between the first 30 years of this century, actually, when retrofitted with new mechanical to up to date, has a lifespan of 50 to 80 years. A new building today will need new rehab or remodel or demolition in 30 to 40 years. So you're investing the same amount of money that you would in a new structure to rehab part of it and not the existing structure, and you're getting a longer life out of your building. That's environmentally smart, and that's economically smart. Taxpayers already paid the cost of this building, and now it would be wasted and put in the landfill. And there's metric tons in the plan. It describes how much demolition waste goes into it, and in average across the country, twice as much of the waste in a landfill is due to construction and demolition waste than household waste. So this is a serious environmental problem as well. I would also like to point out that the Sioux Falls Board of Historic Preservation in this plan was listed as a goal having prevent the unnecessary loss of historic sites. It talks about the craftsmanship associated with old buildings, and that creates a sense of place. It also mentions shape transitions. The new plan and the new development proposal does not follow Section 4 shape transitions, which says do not allow rezonings unless land use transitions are incorporated, and it shows how multifamily buildings need to be reduced scale. They need to have bays, insets, porticos, porches, and stoops, and things to add and not overpower a neighborhood that has existing historic features. In addition, the Pettigrew Heights was established as a conservation area, and it has a neighborhood plan. The neighborhood plan says that the focus is on redevelopment and revitalization priorities, such as rehabilitating historic properties. It also says that this neighborhood plan was scheduled to be updated in fall of 2016. There has not been adequate community input and engagement on this issue. There have not been hardly any present community input, and the only input session was scheduled 6 days after a planning meeting when demolition permits were already granted. This is a problem with transparency. This is a property that was not listed for public sale. And there are 2 developers recently, just in the last week I've spoken to, who were interested in the property and wanted to look at it and didn't even know about that it was slated for demolition yet. So when we have experienced contractors who have done these kinds of properties before and are interested,
Thanks, Alicia.
we need to look at all the options.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Anyone else here to speak on this tonight? Good evening.
Good evening. David Heino, 205 South Menlo Avenue, just 5 blocks west of this location. And I've been in the neighborhood for about 5 years now, and just kind of giving a little brief background, I've I walk, I bike, I ride the bus throughout the neighborhood, and the thing that people need the most is destinations for them to go and to be and to connect with other people. And you just don't see that with how our current infrastructure is set up and what the businesses are there. So really, the 2 points that I really want to make tonight are that, and Alicia hit on it before, Pettigrew Heights neighborhood, we need an updated neighborhood plan. It's been 3 years since we were slated to have that, and that hasn't been done. So what are we doing to engage the people in the neighborhood, which is one of the most dense neighborhoods in the entire city that covers about a half square mile each direction? That's an issue to me, because you're not getting input from everyone in the community. You're not being inclusive of their needs. There is a needs assessment for the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood, which it's a survey. It lists all the things that people need. But a lot of those things cover things like commercial, retail, and all the things that with this project in itself, yes, we're changing the designation to allow more stories on the building, because right now you can only have 2 stories, but it really needs to get back to the zoning side of things, because I'm not against affordable housing, but we're talking about the zoning on this particular property, and it's whether it fits the neighborhood character. And I don't think that a 3-story building, because we already have a couple of those around 11th Street. We have a project on 10th and I think it's 10th and Duluth. It's an affordable housing project. It fits well with the neighborhood. It's 2 stories. It has balconies. It has patios, where those are more likely to see people out there. That reduces crime, and that does everything to help improve the neighborhood walkability, getting people out walking. And the second point that I wanted to make was I have basically, I've created an event for a public open house at the Gathering Place, which is directly across the street. If you haven't been there, it's an amazing place. It's run by an amazing person. She welcomes the neighborhood to come there. We did an event there and getting people, I was one of the past presidents as well, but getting people to come out on September 21st, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., and inviting kids to come out and creating basically like a box city. They can use boxes to create their city in different shapes and forms and all that. So that's a way to engage the next generation, to listen to what their thoughts are and their hopes are for the future of the neighborhood, as well as getting people in the neighborhood what they see as opportunities and what they see as threats throughout the neighborhood, such as this particular request. I know the applicant did touch on that the housing does not meet the standard. What standard are we talking about? Because we're talking about live work here, and they have no desire to do multiple uses, which right now is just commercial. So we're just putting in another single-use building, because I saw Grange Avenue Plaza, that got turned into a single use, a gas station, which it only serves a particular portion of the population. It doesn't serve everyone. So we got to think about the standard that we're setting for the people that live in the neighborhood, and which really kind of comes down to, basically, I don't think that any approval of any rezoning should be given until the first 2 items on the list that I presented, having that updated neighborhood plan and having another neighborhood meeting, because I think, frankly, it's when 3 people show up to a neighborhood meeting after the planning commission has given their say, and obviously after the demolition permit has been issued. I think that's a particular challenge and an issue to address as elected officials. So basically, in short, I think that's basically my testimony. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, David. Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight? All right, council, you have any questions for Jason on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Starr.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Bieber, I'm confused by the process, and the last speaker really brought it up. What do we ask applicants to do? When do we want them, in an ideal world, to have their public meeting? Is it after the planning commission and they get things passed at the planning commission and it moves on? Or do we instruct them that they should have a neighborhood meeting before the planning commission?
Great question. We always encourage neighborhood meetings. Typically, they should be done prior to the Planning Commission. This application was a little odd because we do send out letters, as you know, within 300 feet, and that's usually a week and a half to 2 weeks before the meeting, and we didn't hear one comment back from a neighbor until the day of the Planning Commission meeting. Excuse me. So usually if we hear a bunch of stuff back, that's when we'll really try and push, hey, you need to have a neighborhood meeting, you need to, address some of these concerns, but we really didn't have any calls with anybody opposed to this until the day of the Planning Commission meeting. So then when we had some comment at Planning Commission, the applicant then said, hey, I'll hold a neighborhood meeting between now and City Council just to kind of try and go through some of those concerns. And as I had indicated before, they were really more driven on tearing down the building than the actual uses, so.
Thank you. Other questions for Jason on this? Councilor Neitzer.
So let's talk about, and there's two very competing interests here, historic preservation versus there's also the issue of, to some extent, there's obviously things like property rights and whether or not I should tell somebody that I'm going to tell you that you must potentially lose money on a project. Now, obviously that's in dispute whether you would lose money, I get that, but a demolition permit has been issued, is that true? Do you know?
I believe a demolition permit has been issued. I think it's important to note if this rezoning is approved or denied, they can tear down the building one way or the other. It's not within a historic district. It's not on the National Register of Historic Buildings. I mean, they could have torn it down 2 years ago if they wanted to. I think they were waiting to see if the rezoning's approved and then actually go and tear it down. So I think they got their demo permit before the approval just to kind of be able to get going if it is approved.
Would you know here in the city of Sioux Falls, do we have any criterion or is it a shall? You have to issue a demo permit if they provide certain things. I mean, is there any sort of appeal or you can just say no? I mean, or do they just have to show they have the capacity, they can do it?
To my knowledge, if it's not in a historic district, we have to issue a demo permit. They have to get a sewer cap and a water cap, I believe, but otherwise there's nothing that says that we cannot issue a demo permit.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions for Jason? Councilor Steele, do you have a question?
Well, Councilor Neitzer just kind of asked the question, is clarification about the historical weight of this particular building, which it is not protected at all. No. And Rachel, right? I did want to ask, but if you want me to wait, but I wanted to ask Rachel a question. But should I do that now or wait?
Are there any more questions for Jason while we got him up here? All right. Rachel, you want to come back up, please?
So, Rachel, my question is, and I don't know if I missed this, but I do try to be attentive, and I think we all probably do, as to emails, inquiries that we get from citizens. I don't recall anything from any citizens on my email that was concerning this. I did see some stuff on Facebook that people were talking about it, but I haven't heard anything. Is there a reason that there wasn't an effort made before this to reach out to us?
Well, myself, I became aware of this about a month ago when it became a news story that it was going to be torn down. Our usual Board of Historic Preservation meeting, which is on the second Wednesday of the month, was delayed, and we just had it the last Wednesday of the month. And so at that time was the time where we had public input on it and were able to discuss it as a board. So it's not on the list of the National Register because no one's who's owned it has requested that it be so. So if it's not requested to be so, it won't be. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have potential or that it could be if the owner wanted it to be, but it's not right now.
And like when we had the first reading, there wasn't, I don't believe anybody came to speak about this. So when I'm just hearing about the concerns now, so that kind of puts you in a position of, yeah, I'm sorry about it, but it's there. It's and I was just concerned that maybe you weren't directed to. Sometimes people have been told not to come to the council till the second reading.
I was encouraged to come to the council and advocate.
On the first reading too, though?
No, wasn't made aware of it until the Argus ran a story about it about a little less than a month ago, I believe. That's how I became aware of it.
All right, Councilor Erickson.
Jake, can I ask you a question, please? One of the testimonies that
I'm sorry.
Jake, yeah, sorry. One of the previous comments was made that this is just a single-use building. Talk to me a little bit about that, because it's my understanding that this will be multi-use. It will have some commercial on the first floor, possible office, and then it's going to have rentals and apartments on the upper floors. Walk me through that.
So the current plan that you have in front of you does not have those other uses in it, no. In the event that there's a market for those, it's certainly something we're willing to incorporate where it works, but this plan does not have it, nor would I tell you that I'm promising I will.
So what is 35 units then?
35 apartment units, and it'll have a community room and playground, those sort of things that would go along with these sort of projects.
But you're not doing that?
That is the plan that's here. That's what was submitted to the state of South Dakota on August 31st through the South Dakota Housing Development Authority. And to answer the question about the building permit, we acquired this property 2 years ago. We've taken a couple of runs at different ideas of how to redevelop it, one of which was potentially vacating Spring Avenue. You know, the issues of vacating streets aside, we have shifted away from that, and this use right here, we believe serves the community. We think we can enhance what's there and make a difference.
And I don't know where everyone's at and based on the testimony, but I would be encouraged to have this be the maximum use possible for this and have those units. I know I'm not going to tell you how to operate your property. You own it. It's your property rights. But as we look at the core area and redeveloping it, you know, the core needs to be redeveloped as well. It deserves that opportunity. And so I'd like to see the most maximum use. At one point I did hear about the street vacation, and to be honest, I wish it was going the other way and that this was a little more grandiose, that it could be a higher maximum use for in that area that would incorporate some affordable housing as well. So,
and one of the things that we've done here when the street vacation wasn't viable, VOA does own a house across the street next to that parking lot they have, so we've preserved that parking so that we didn't use it up here. We got strategic by using the YMCA parking lot will lose one spot in its parking lot, and we have enough parking on this side of the block that in the future you can redevelop and get additional use right there where he just drew the red X. So getting the maximum use, getting the densities, and trying to create those places of activity, that is important to us. You know, this is real and viable, and you know, when you look at putting the minimum amount of dollars just to, once you start in and have to remediate asbestos into that building, what you're left with is has a very limited viability unless you're going to use it for a church or those sort of facilities, which they've all turned away. So,
thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Any more questions or motions that anyone would want to make? Councilor Staley?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kiley, and then Councilor Staley.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have a similar scenario, not located as close to our core, and I do agree with Councilor Erickson that we do have to focus on revitalizing our core too, and I do believe this is a project that will assist in that effort. But Joe Foss building was built as a school, as this building was built as a school. It has changed hands a couple of times now, and the most recent was to revitalize it, turn it into apartments and maybe some mixed use as well. The last I've heard, it's on the market once again now, that they just didn't find that there was a market for it and it was too expensive to do that. This building was built originally as a school, so consequently you do not have plumbing running to every single room. It's not like an old apartment complex that would have some of that infrastructure there. You basically have plumbing running to hallway drinking fountains and to restrooms. Other than that, you're going to have to run HVAC and plumbing through concrete and cinder block walls, and so the expense there is considerable. I don't want to have another abandoned building in the city, and one that's located in this particular district. So, and believe me when I do say that I'm sensitive to historic buildings. Before I became an educator, I had considered being an architect, so I still like to dabble in architecture, but I do see that this will continue like the old school building did for many years as a school, as well as how the VOA used the building. It has serviced its purpose. I don't believe it would be a waste of taxpayer dollars, because we can't take away how it has served us for 80 years already. However, I do believe that this proposal is going to continue to serve the district or serve that neighborhood. And one quick question, a follow-up question for you, Jason. You had mentioned that notifications went out to the planning or went out to the immediate area within 300 feet prior to the planning commission. Can you tell me how long before the planning commission meeting those notifications went out?
Usually it's about 2 weeks. I believe we send them out Wednesday of 2 weeks before the meeting, so it usually takes a day for people to get them, so.
And based on the lack of concern for the project, it wasn't recommended to the developer in this case to hold a public meeting at that point in time, or prior to that point in time.
Well, we
Did I
always
understand that
recommend
correct?
anybody to hold a public meeting. If we, like I said, if we would have had a lot of these concerns that we've heard in the last 3 weeks, we probably would have told them either hold a public meeting prior to planning commission and we'll defer you to kind of answer
Right.
some of those
You would have
things.
been more aggressive.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Counselor Steele.
Okay, back to a comment that was made that this wasn't sold on the open market. Can you explain? Because apparently there were 2 offers to renovate this. This must have been like 2 years ago. Would they have been, since Lloyd Company has owned this for 2 years, is that right?
I believe the sale went through when I was looking today in January of 2018, but I don't know anything about it not being on the open market at all.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to defer this, and I'll just say, my concern is that we're talking about, didn't seem to be any interest, so we didn't have meetings, and I guess I hadn't heard from these people before. So just for the sake of due process, and since this doesn't seem to be life or death yet, I would like to make a motion to defer this, and I'm going to say till September 17th, to allow the developer to maybe have a meeting with these people and allow us to be able to hear a little bit more, especially since the Board of Historic Preservation apparently was weighing in on this. So just for the sake of transparency. So that's my motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor then for that. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Starr. Do we want to have any discussion on that? All right, we'll take a vote then. On
Well,
that.
and if I could just put Jake, would you come up for a minute before we vote? And maybe Jason weighs in on this, but is there a chance that we can have, that you could meet with the neighbors?
I mean,
It's going to make me feel better if you would make that effort just to listen.
Yeah, we will absolutely listen. I would encourage the council that, notwithstanding this, I mean, I'm going to have that conversation with them after this, and if there's higher and better use, we'll always listen. I mean, it needs to make sense, but I wouldn't say that the demolition of this building has anything to do with the rezoning application that you're considering right now, because when we bought this 2 years ago,
I understand, but it never hurts to have a little communication.
Nope.
All right, thanks, Jake. All right, so there's a motion on the floor to defer to September 17, seconded by Starr. Let's take a vote on that, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
No.
Kylie?
No.
Nitzert?
No.
Selberg?
No.
Sale?
No.
All right, that fails 5-2. Councilors, we want to put a motion on the floor on this item, and then we can have more discussion if we'd like.
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second, Erickson.
Motion approved by Sale, seconded by Erickson. Discussion on this. Do you have something, Councilor Erickson, or Councilor Nitzert?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the thought of trying to get people to come together, but I think really what it comes down to is, you know, if somebody wants to, well, first of all, you have to have, it's got to be, and I'm not saying it for them, but people that do historic preservation, obviously it's a labor of love. There's some people that they'll put a lot more money into it than they're ever going to get back, and it's not about profit margins or anything like that. And that's awesome. I struggle here though because I always hate to lose an older building, but I have somebody who owns a building who is telling me that they can't seem to find a market for it. So as much as people may want to do this, that, or whatever, they're actually, I mean, there has to be some path forward for them, and they need to be able to make it work. Now, and as far as the sale issue goes, I don't know that there's any relevance to that. I mean, if I own a piece of property and I want to sell it as a private party sale and not list it, I don't know that that's frankly, anybody's business. I mean, if I want to sell my house to my dad and not list it, you know, or whatever. So I don't particularly see that that's a problem. I guess the applicant is telling me that they don't see that there's a market to do a lot of these things. And so if there's no market and they don't see a path and they have a demo permit, you may end up just having a vacant building sit there, or they may demo it and we may look at a vacant lot. The other thing I would say is I understand why they're saying it, and I would just say it's disappointing to hear that, and I do hope that they would look for the highest and best use in terms of more density if they can push it. I would support it generally, especially in this area because we'll be part of downtown someday. It's disappointing to hear that they would abandon and I understand why, the vacation thought, because I think that there could be some great synergies, but given the political realities of our last year, I understand why they wouldn't go for it. But it's a big struggle, but I guess I have a hard time telling somebody that you're going to have to hold on to a building that you don't believe that you can market and do something with. I just don't know that I can do that.
Right. Councilor Sale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to vote in support of this for this reason. We have a vacant commercial building that is going to be repurposed for 35 units of subsidized housing, low-income housing that the state of South Dakota is looking at the application for. I'm here to tell you we have an housing issue in Sioux Falls. We have affordable housing issue in Sioux Falls. This is a vacant commercial building being repurposed for affordable housing. It is a buffer between a bank and homes. So that's why I feel we need to support this. It's the right thing. It's for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All right, I'm going to call for a vote on this after Councilor Steele. One more comment?
Well, another comment is that the issue at hand here is you know, preserving, embracing, enhancing our older buildings. And I was just thinking about the buildings in the past that we did save from demolition. I mean, our Washington Pavilion, we rehabbed. The Coliseum, they were going to rip that down years ago, and there was actually, I think, a petition drive to save it. The State Theater, we just gave $1.5 million to renovate this old building that's been sitting vacant for a long time, and because we think it's important for preservation. Our Orpheum down where we have a lot of city link activities, and so I'm appreciative of you bringing this forward, and I know it's sat vacant for 2 years, but apparently there would have been some interest from other developers to take this building and rehab it as it exists. So once we lose a building like this, we'll never get it back again. So I will be voting just no on this, as just to say that, first of all, I wanted to hear a little bit more. I wanted the neighbors and the interested people to have a chance to dialogue a little more, and I think the process maybe needed to be a little more expansive.
All right, I'm going to call for a vote on this, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
No.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 6-1. Item 30, please.
Item 30 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 1320 North Archer Drive from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, number 10627, 2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 4-0.
The applicant and owner here is Gary Haar. It's located east of North Cleveland Avenue and south of East Rice Street, just south of Grand Prairie Foods. It's about 0.60 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking at constructing a twin home on this lot.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item tonight? All right, council, you have questions for Jason on this one?
Move to approve, Erickson.
All right. Motion approved by Erickson and seconded by Kylie. Any discussion, council? All right, we'll vote on this one, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-1, or 7-0, excuse me. Next item, please.
Item 31 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 4800 North Cliff Avenue from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the CN Conservation District, number 10584, 2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 4-0.
The applicant and owner here is the City of Sioux Falls. It's roughly 3.85 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is we're looking at matching the correct zoning with the current use of a city-owned detention pond.
Thanks, Jason. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to this item here? All right, council, do you have any questions for Jason on this one?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion approved by Erickson, seconded by Councilor Kylie. Any questions or discussion, council? We'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-0. Item 32.
Item 32 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 4400 North Subert Lane from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the CN Conservation District, number 10587, 2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is another application and owner is the City of Sioux Falls. This one's 0.21 acres, and similar to the previous request, it's to correct the zoning for the current use of a city detention pond.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public like to speak to this topic tonight? Councilors, do you have any questions on this?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second, Erickson.
All right, motion approved by Nitzert, seconded by Erickson. Any discussion? A vote, please, clerk.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 33, second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 4600 North Cliff Avenue from the I-2 Heavy Industrial District to the CN Conservation District, number 10586, 2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 4-0.
This is also an application from the City of Sioux Falls. This one's 2.73 acres and also rezoning it for a city-owned detention pond.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak to this item tonight? All right, council, any questions for Jason?
Move approval, Erickson.
Second, Selberg.
All right, motion approved by Erickson and seconded by Selberg. Any discussion? We'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-0. Item 34.
Item 34 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 900 East 56th Street North from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the CN Conservation District, number 10585, 2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 4-0.
This is our final application by the City of Sioux Falls. It's 0.21 acres and also for a city-owned detention pond.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public like to speak on this one? All right, council, any questions for Jason?
Move approval, Erickson.
Second, Selberg.
Motion approved by Erickson, seconded by Selberg. Any discussion? We'll take a vote.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Move to item 35.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor
I
Starr.
need to recuse myself on this item.
You are recused, sir.
Thank you.
Item 35 is a first reading, an ordinance approving the cable system franchise renewal agreement between Mid-Continent Communications and the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, along with authorizing the mayor to sign the same. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019.
Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jason Reisdorfer, Director of Innovation and Technology. You may recall in May that we brought forward the Midco Cable Franchise Agreement. At that time, staff received direction from you that you'd like to amend the proposed cable franchise and bring it back. Council also set the amount of the franchise fee, the community grant, and the PEG fee at that time by resolution. Our staff has amended the franchise consistent with the council's direction, and we've presented it to Midco for approval. Midco has accepted the amended language and has executed the amended franchise, which is before the council today. Just as a reminder, we use the existing cable franchise that we have in place with Midco as the base document for this renewal, and so you'll notice that the two documents are very similar. The following is just a quick high-level summary of the agreed-upon revisions. Number one, we updated some cable ordinance references, which had become outdated, and tightened up some language around the grant of authority granted by the cable franchisee. We've defined the term as 10 years as opposed to the 5 years. We've updated the insurance requirements, and we've also added an umbrella insurance provision to this. We updated the franchise fee, community grant, and PEG fee language to require Midco to pay those fees as the council sets by resolution pursuant to the city cable ordinance. We have added in the fact that the city's cable ordinance now allows you to, but it does not require us to set the franchise fee and PEG fee once every 2 years. So in essence, 2 years from now, we could take another look at the fee structure, and we didn't have that in there before. So, and then finally, if this is approved, the amount, as you recall in May, we set by resolution, or you set by resolution, the fee to be 3% with no PEG fee. The capital grant, which will come out of the franchise fee, is set at 1% and used to fund the operations of the educational access channel, which is run by the school district, and the government access channel, which is run by the city. If approved, this renewed cable franchise fee will become effective January 1st, 2020, and staff recommends approval. I do know that the General Counsel for Midco is here. If you have any questions for Pat or myself, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Jason on this one? All right, look for a motion to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, September 10 on it.
Move approval. Second.
All right, motion by Selberg to that effect, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion, council? Okay, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Staley?
Yes.
Erickson? Yes. Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Councilor Sale, you want to grab Councilor Starr there? Sure. And we will move on to item 36.
Item 36 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations for the design and construction of a dog park. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019.
Good evening, Mike.
Thank you, councilors. Mr. Mayor, Mike Patton with the Parks and Recreation Department. Items both 36 and 37 are somewhat tied together, so this presentation will be applicable for both. We're here today to talk about the Kirby Dog Park at Fort Sod. Just to give you a little background about this project, it's really been a community-driven idea. As we all know, downtown has evolved over the years, added more residents, continue to grow in the residential population, as well as lodging and other visitors to the area. In the Sioux Falls 2025 downtown plan identified a dog park within the downtown core as a high priority, and ever since then we've really been exploring ideas and locations for that. Earlier this year, Joe and Jennifer Kirby expressed an interest in potentially funding a project like this, and since then we've taken on various preliminary efforts in exploring the possibilities. Working with Downtown Sioux Falls and Joe Batchelor, we met with various stakeholders, adjacent property owners, just to explore the idea and see what the feeling was about that. We also discussed with the original artist, Steve Thomas of Sea Dream, the existing sculpture there on the site, about possibly relocating that piece, as well as the Visual Arts Commission, all of which have been really well received to this point. We developed a preliminary schematic for how it could look and a cost projection, and explored any potential issues with developing the site. The image you see there shows an idea of what it could be. It's about a half-acre site. It's located at Fort Sod, which is on the corner of 10th, and 2nd, adjacent from, or right across the street from Faywick Park. The site would probably be divided into two different zones. One would be for any dogs, one would be for small dogs. That's a typical design feature of most dog parks. It's easily accessible from walking throughout the downtown area. Its connections to the Greenway and the bike trail are close, and there's also on-street available parking for the site. Some of the elements you may see in this would have more of an urban flair from compared to what the other dog parks look like. But you'd see a fencing system, whether it be ornamental railings and columns, double gated entrances, which are used for people to access a dog park, safely let their dog in without having a conflict between the street or adjacent properties. Drinking fountains, waste stations, park lighting, benches, dog features, and interpretive signage. One thing I will note as we anticipate telling the history of Fort Sod, and that's there now through interpretive exhibits in the design. Talk a little bit about the gifting agreement. This is an agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation through a fund that's been established by Joe and Jennifer Kirby. It would allow the city to develop the property and provide funding up to $600,000 from the Community Foundation to the city. The city be responsible to administer the project. That'd be planning, design and construction, administration of it. The city, in partnership with Downtown Sioux Falls, would maintain all the improvements going forward. There is a naming application attached to this agreement, which would rename Fort Sod to the Kirby Dog Park at Fort Sod. And I will note that staff has reviewed this application, as well as the park board voted in August and unanimously approved or recommended approval of the naming application. Some of the next steps involve going on September 10th, coming back for council consideration of the gifting agreement, the naming application, as well as the supplemental appropriation, which will be all donated funds. And note that the naming application does require unanimous support from the council. There will also be a resolution to amend the capital plan to administer the project. Going forward, we'd like to update the master plan for Fort Sod in October, design and develop the construction documents in December, bid the project early this winter, and start construction as soon as spring allows, with the goal to open the park in 2020. With that, I can answer any questions, as well as Andy Patterson from the Community Foundation is here.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Mike on this item? Councilor Kiley.
Well, I don't have any questions, and I know it's a first reading, and hopefully maybe the Kirbys will be here for the second reading, but I'd just like to thank the Kirbys for identifying a need in downtown Sioux Falls and then addressing that need, because we have over 3,000 people that call downtown home now, and a lot of them are pet owners as well, too. And there's not a lot of grass in downtown Sioux Falls. I have yet to see somebody out walking their dog past the Carnegie where the dog hasn't elected to make a pit stop on the Carnegie front lawn. So the dog park at Fort Sod will be a perfect location. And once again, thank you, Kirby's.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Staley.
Say, Mike, I'm just thinking back, and Counselor Kiley's talking about lack of green space, and was there a plan by Norm Drake to have a dog park across from Sunshine? And if so, what happened to that plan?
Well, I can't speak for Norm Drake, but you may be referring to the temporary dog park that was set up near Sunshine. That was actually operated by downtown Sioux Falls, and it was somewhat of an inspiration for utilizing Fort Sod for a permanent feature.
I see, okay. Yeah, because I think Norm Drake had owned the property that they were using. So that's gone, okay.
Other questions for Mike? Counselor Sale?
Could you define a small dog?
I have a picture.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Counselor
And I'd
Kiley.
like to clarify, this is much more than just a pit stop for dogs too. This is actually a dog park where they can get out and run and exercise, enjoy life downtown as well. Thank you.
Correct. All right, I'd look for a motion to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, September 10 on this item.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Kiley on that and seconded by Sale. Any discussion, Council? All right, you have to vote with a bark sound, please. Clerk? I'm just kidding. We will take a vote.
Councilmember Starr?
Who's first?
Yeah, me. Yes.
Councilmember Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Is one or two barks a yes?
Either.
Yes, all right.
Sale?
Yes.
Oh, fun. 7-0, that passes. We'll move on to item 37, please.
Item 37 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the naming of a space on Fort Sod Park and authorizing the mayor to sign a conditional gifting agreement for a cash gift to redevelop space on Fort Sod Park. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019.
This is the corresponding item for the gifting agreement as well as the naming application. Might just reiterate that it requires unanimous approval from the council and that the park board unanimously recommended approval.
All right, thank you, Mike. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? All right, Council, do you have questions for Mike on this? Look for a motion, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, September 10.
Move approval.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Selber on that, seconded by Sale. Any discussion, Council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. We're on to item 38, please.
Item 38 is deferred from the meeting of Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. A resolution vacating the East 63rd Street North right-of-way from the east right-of-way line of North Cliff Avenue to approximately 466 feet east as shown on Exhibit A.
Good evening, Kirk.
Good evening. Item 38 is the deferred from the August 13th meeting, and if it would move forward, we would need to amend that resolution. This section of right-of-way is near North Cliff Avenue and 990. The application was submitted, the petition, submitted by the South Dakota Department of Transportation pursuant to South Dakota law and complies with our street vacation policy. A neighborhood meeting was held back in January. One person was in attendance. If the vacation is approved, an easement will be reserved for public and private utilities. Since our last meeting, I did meet with the owner of Len's Awning, was the gentleman that was here last time. I met him on site. This is just a picture looking to the east near the Perkins and Cliff Avenue, the old intersection. When I went out there to meet with Len, I thought we had a good meeting. This is National Avenue, which would be, was questioned last time, the gravel access, one of the accesses that would go back to where his business is. There's about 200 to 300 feet of gravel here before it turns into this asphalt section. Communicated with Len that we are working with the property owner that is in the city limits on getting some pavement, be more of a half street, just due to, back up a picture. Those power poles would be right at or near the city limits. So that
half of the street would be outside the city limits. The east half or the right half would be in the city limits, so we're working with the property owner that wants to develop that site, getting some pavement down there. Also, when I went out to visit with Len, I was aware of how to get there, but I just typed in a few different addresses on how to get there, and this is actually from Del Rapids where I live. Google Maps, it shows the appropriate way to get there, which is right now the paved access is Golby Avenue. National Avenue is that section, it would be the section, just you can see National is noted just below East 60th Street North. That's where that gravel section is, but from City Hall, from Del Rapids, from Brandon, it all takes you to Golby Avenue and out to his business. Talked about this with Len. I'm not sure if he was aware of that, but just if I was a person that was going to come out and utilize his business, that's how I would get there. Something else just talked about is just making sure that he understood that should the DOT want to close off access through the parking lot, they could do that tomorrow. And it would be in his best interest to work with his current customers and any customers that call in, making sure that they are utilizing National Avenue, which is a very good gravel section, or following the Google Maps, and that so his customers know the appropriate way to get in there, because that access off of Cliff Avenue could end tomorrow should the DOT decide to do that. From transportation and utility perspective, engineering doesn't have any concerns with it. It'll never tie back into Cliff Avenue, so we don't have any concerns with the vacation.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Len. Visited with just about all of you over the phone. Thank you for giving me the time and speaking with me. That's greatly appreciated. Somebody actually came out there and looked at it. Kurt was saying that he brought it up on the internet where you find your way there, map, whatever you want to call it. I'm not up to date on that stuff at all. I'm still back in the 80s. But one council member said that their map brought them up on National Avenue. Another council member that was there said that, geez, you know, kind of got tired of looking, so I just came through Perkins. It was easier. Wow, isn't that amazing? I bought the land in 1987, was not able to build on it until November 15th of 95 when I actually talked the bank into borrowing me the money. And been there ever since. I live right across the street now. The address is 1511 and 1512, East 63rd Street North. I am a volunteer firefighter for Renner, have been for 18 and a half years. I'm an EMT and a firefighter. The response time to get to the either Cloverleaf, if I was to go the way that you're proposing, back around through Golby, because that's the one that everybody wants to use, go up to Golby, come all the way back down, get on the freeway, and get to the accident that somebody got ejected, two-car collision, get ejected, car sitting on top of somebody. What difference does 91 seconds make on a response team? Life or death. Don't mean much to some people, but if you're laying underneath that car and you see my face there 91 seconds before everybody else gets there, because I can go right down through and get off on 63rd, get off on Cliff and get there, you might be walking tomorrow and talking where is if it takes me 91 seconds longer to go clear up and clear around, you might not be there. My shop is a custom shop. There's nobody in town there's other shops that do some of the things that we do, but there is no shop that does everything that we can do. There's nothing that we can't do. We've proved that over and over again. When Kellyanne was gonna move in down the street, they worked with me. My main concern, because the only way on to that street was 63rd Street by Perkins. My main concern was, what am I gonna do? They were gonna make that all parking lot, get me clear around by the fence, and bring me back over to the gravel road. They were willing to work with me. When that got closed down, or that thing went away, went to Perkins, had absolutely no problem with working with me. Sure, you can use it. This is what I would like from you. No problem. We had a great relationship, and we were able to use that driving through their parking lot and back. As I mentioned before, we plow the snow on that road. We plow it all the way over from National, all the way to 60th Street, because the snow plows don't get there till the middle of the afternoon. By that time, I've already had 6 or 7 customers, maybe even 10 customers, depends on the snowstorm and the day. So that has to be done. And real quick here, on the back of Kurt's card, it says, don't dodge it, report it. Call the potholes hotline. How many potholes did we drive by when we come on Gobi Avenue over to my road? A pile of them. So my gravel road's in better shape than the city street is. Let's see. I'm about out of time.
About 10 seconds, Lynn.
I'm about done.
All right.
I had a couple more things, but I ain't gonna make it, so.
Thank you.
For
Thanks
your
for
time,
being
and
here.
again, thank you very much for taking the time, come visit with me.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
Thanks for your service on the fire department and EMT too. Appreciate that. Anyone else here to speak on this topic tonight? Good evening.
I'm Alexis Shifrell. I work at Len's Awning Canvas, and I'm also Len's neighbor. I know it seems silly, but it's super convenient. And I feel like if you just close it off, it's just convenient for them. So, you know, I use that road all the time to go to the gas station, to go to Burger King. And my husband is on the fire department, and he uses that as well. And it's unbelievable, actually, how many people use that road. And I don't know, I guess they're just gonna have to go to Cliff if it gets closed down, but just keep that in mind. Thanks.
Thanks, Alexa. Anyone else here to speak on this topic tonight?
Good evening. I'm Craig Smith with South Dakota Department of Transportation, and just make a few comments. When we acquired that property, we acquired it in fee. It's not owned as highway right-of-way, so there's no inherent access rights across that. When we buy it in fee, like Kurt pointed out, we could elect to close that access off to Cliff Avenue tomorrow if we elected to do so. We don't have intentions to do that, but we do intend to, ideally with the approval of the vacation, take this sale or this property to an open market auction and hopefully get it back into the hands of private developers to redevelop that into a different use. I would expect if that is not vacated at this point, a private developer will be back here. We believe it makes the property a little more opportunity to develop. So I think either way, you're going to be considering a vacation at some point, whether it's through the department or through a future developer to do that. So with that, I have all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Anyone else here to speak on this tonight? All right, councilors, any questions? Councilor Neitzer, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I've thought a lot about this, and I had a really good conversation with Len. So I understand the inconvenience, but just kind of thinking it out, just the logic part. This decision was made years and years ago. The road was closed. The road is closed. It's a dead end. It doesn't go anywhere. And so, just as a thought experiment, I just want to give you a couple of thoughts. Like, imagine that this was, let's say, a cul-de-sac, and there was some homes wrapped around it. I owned all the homes, okay? And now, let us say that somebody find it convenient, because I had a wide lot, to drive straight across my property to take a shortcut to get to some other road. And somebody came to you and said, I'd like to vacate this road because I'm going to tear down all the houses and I'm going to do a redevelopment. And somebody said, well, I drive across his lawn to get for a shortcut. Would that seem like a vested right or something that should be preserved? Sounds like a silly, almost ridiculous, but that's conceptually what we're looking at here. You literally have, now again, in the real world, this particular thing, is the world going to end if this piece wasn't vacated? Let's be honest, no. But you would get more coherent development if you vacated it because you put all these pieces together. But here's the thing. Think about the message that we would be sending as a body to everybody in the community that wants to redevelop. If we literally cannot vacate a road that goes nowhere because people are using it to trespass across private property, it would be an incredibly stunning statement. I don't know who would bring a street vacation forward in the future and want to do any redevelopment. This one is just, I feel for the owner of the property, but we're crossing private property. And so you have a dead-end road, and the property owner owns all of the land around it. I don't see any coherent reason not to vacate this road.
Okay. Councilor Kiley.
Thank you. Well, as we've heard, this could be shut off. The access through the private property could be shut off tomorrow, even though Mr. Smith had indicated that the DOT does not have plans to do so. But as soon as the property sells, that certainly could take place. And then much of this discussion is moot because it's no longer there. My wife and I actually went out to Lens a week ago Friday and looked over the route there and went both directions so that we were fully aware of the scenario. I had further discussion with Len, and also had discussions with Director Mark Cotter about improvements on National Avenue, and followed up with Kurt about improvements on National Avenue. And I conveyed this to Len too. And Len, it's not that I'm not sympathetic to your situation, because I am, but I'm looking at the reality of it. It could be closed very soon. The longer term solution seems to be the improvement on National Avenue, and then it'll develop even further, because as I understand, and just for full disclosure, that was asphalt, but that did not involve curb and gutter, I don't believe. Correct, Kurt, at this point in time? A shoulder.
Yeah, just
on our
with
side.
The amount of space there, part of that gravel road is on or near the private property. So to construct a curb and gutter and widen up asphalt section there, it may be in that 15 to 20 feet of asphalt. Curb and gutter may or may not be installed, but there would be a hard surface there.
Okay, and suitable for 2 vehicles?
Correct.
To travel each direction?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I really do believe the best long-term solution is to improve that nearest access, which is National Avenue. And then the other thing, Councilor Neitzer touched on it too, but I, as a member of this body, I can't grant somebody permission to travel across private property. And if I were to base that base my decision on that it's a quicker route. Basically, I'm stating that it's okay for the public to cross private property to access from point A to point B, and I just cannot do that. So I do hope that we can get the resolution to National Avenue, though, as soon as we can. Thank you.
Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, a lot of good points already that I won't repeat that Councilor Neitzer and Kylie just talked about as far as, you know, vacating a road that goes nowhere and some other points that were made. Len, I appreciated the conversation that we had, and I'm a big fan of entrepreneurs and small business folk, and appreciate what you do, and especially your service to your community through that and the firefighting and that type of thing too. And I know this is a tough situation too, but I am encouraged to hear, and if I'm hearing correctly from everybody, Kurt, that we're working with him and working on the situation on the alternative route to make that as smooth as possible and doing all we can in that regard, correct?
Correct. Looking at this picture to the right towards where the flag is pointing, the developer and owner have submitted a plat in our system. A plat essentially, part of the plat requirement is a subdivision construction agreement. Public improvements being the road and any other improvements would go along with that, and a financial security. So as that plat is being approved in our system, I don't know the exact state it is right now, but prior to approval of that plat, we require the agreement, and money should they walk away from the project, the city would have funds there to complete any work that we agreed to at that point.
Okay. Okay. So it looks like we're trying to work our best to help with the situation as well. So I'll probably be supporting the vacation, but I appreciate, again, you reaching out, and we're hopefully working on the route. And I think it's a matter of time. This is going to happen either now or very soon. So thank you.
Councilor Staley.
So does the DOT owns the Perkins building, is that correct?
That would be correct. That building's vacated now. There's no business operating. We purchased that, like I said before, in fee along with all the other lots abutting the vacation petition.
How long ago did you purchase it?
It was an ongoing, the project was done 2012, and it was ongoing negotiations and litigations. I think it was in the last year to 18 months, the final settlement was on that.
Have you ever told Len that he couldn't drive through the parking lot during that time?
I have not, no.
And then I was just, the area that we're vacating, that we're proposing that's not even in city limits, is it? Maybe Kurt can answer that. Kurt, am I correct that that's not in city limits?
That is in the city limits. It's kind of difficult to see, but the darker lines around the lots, those would be essentially the city limits. The area kind of right in the middle, right of the circled area where there's no lot lines, that would be the area that's outside the city limits.
Okay, because I was kind of, from a map I had seen, I thought that area, that, like going in front of their homes,
That's outside the city limits.
They're not in the city limits. So is it Wayland? What's the, because there's a street called Wayland in there. Is that in the city limits?
Wayland would not be in the city limits.
Okay, because this area that we're talking about is right by Wayland then, the gravel road.
Correct. Wayland.
Is that where it starts?
Right in this area where I have the mouse. Wayland is right in this area.
Right, but up by that, I was out there today, and Wayland, there's a sign that says Wayland right up by where by that road that we're talking, the yellow road. There's a sign that says Wayland up there. Where you highlight that in yellow, there's a street, isn't there, Len? There's a street sign that says Wayland.
I believe Wayland is back in this area, back towards Len's property.
I thought it was closer to where the gravel was you were going to close off. Okay.
Any other questions for Kurt while we have him here on this? All right, does anyone want to make a motion on this item?
Move approval, Neitzer.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion approved by Nitzert, seconded by Kylie. Counselor Starr?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I want to at least discuss the other side of it. This road does go somewhere. It goes to Mr. Dose's property. He's used it in the past. To say that he's trespassed across the Perkins property or his customers have trespassed is a little false as well, because he's had the opportunity to negotiate with Perkins in the past. He's gotten that permission for him and his customers to cross that private property. And the reason being, I think he made a very good point, that the response time that it would take to serve the public in the case of an accident, whether it's an accident, fire, traffic, those type of things. And to say that somehow that people were doing something wrong, I don't think at any point anyone ever made the case that people were trespassing across the property. I may choose, if I owned the property, to not allow that to happen, and I may shut it down. The South Dakota Department of Transportation could also make that decision, but at this point they haven't. And he's had the ability to negotiate with that property owner to have access to use their parking lot. The next owner of the property may or may not choose to let Mr. Dose have the same similar agreement. I am always been a big advocate of public safety. I may make that choice as a property owner. If we, for argument's sake, if we vacate this street tonight, we take Mr. Dose's ability to negotiate with the next property owner, that ability to access the property. I choose to let my neighbors park in my driveway because they had a large family gathering a couple of weeks ago. It's not legal. It's not, you know, I could have had them towed, but I chose to allow that. We worked out an agreement because there's often times where they have a large family and it clogs the street, and we made an agreement to allow them park on my property. Happens all the time. Was in Minneapolis and St. Paul over the weekend at the state fair, at the Minnesota State Fair. People parked all over people's lawns and on their sidewalks and things we would just be horrified by. But there was an agreement between two individuals to be able to come to that agreement to do that. Would it be my first choice? No. But at least in the case of the state fair in Minnesota, people chose to use their front lawn as a parking lot on a temporary basis to earn money. There were a lot of churches that chose to use their what wouldn't normally be a parking lot or access to their property. Excuse me. So what I think we're doing, and yes, we'll eventually, as this develops, be back here, but at this point, I'm probably going to err on the side of public safety and allow, there are at least 2 EMTs and first responders that are in this neighborhood to continue with the agreement that they have in place.
Councilor Sale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I enjoyed the conversation I had with Len on the phone today, and I've used this facility several times throughout the last lot of years. It goes back a long ways. They do excellent work, they really do. I've gone in both ways, from the backside to get to what I would call the backside to come through National, knowing that his property is not in the city limits. Some of those streets are not well kept. And Councilor Starr alluded to the agreement that he had with Perkins. Well, Perkins no longer owns the facility, the state of South Dakota. In North Dakota, you can go onto somebody's land if it's not posted. In South Dakota, it is, if you don't have that right, you cannot go into somebody's land even if it's not posted. It's inherent. My neighbors cannot come onto my yard unless I give them permission technically, otherwise it's trespassing. So in this situation, the state of South Dakota owns the property unless they give an express consent to Len and his clients to go on the property. That is trespassing. That's the way it is. And my conversation with Len today, I told him, I said, it's an unfortunate situation. It was dictated years ago when the state acquired the land. Our hands are really tied at this point because the state's going to do something here. They own a valuable piece of property, and we all don't want the state to hold a lot of property in trust in perpetuity because we're taxpayers. So this land, it needs to be developed at some point. I'm going to vote for the vacation. It might fail. It will be back. I will guarantee it will be back if it doesn't work. And I would encourage Len to seek out solutions with the next property owner to maybe he can get access to that. Or as I encouraged him on the phone, I said, raise your hand and be annexed into the city. And then that would help your street situation. He expressed that there might be an additional cost to that he might be unwilling to bear. I would say that when this land is sold and it is developed, it will add to the value of his land because they are adjacent to it. So if something goes in there that's very nice, and it will because of the intersection that it's close to, I think his land value will go up, which will help him in the long run. So I would encourage my colleagues to go ahead and vote for the vacation.
Councilor Neitzer.
I'm going to make a substitute motion to defer this for 1 week.
Second, Star.
All right, motion to defer by Councilor Neitzer, seconded by Councilor Starr.
This obviously has some dissension, and I think it's fair to have all 8 people here if possible because it requires 6 votes.
Okay. We'll take a vote on that motion to defer then.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
No.
Erickson?
No.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-2. We will defer this. We didn't set a date to when we'll defer it to.
1 week.
Did you say 1 week?
September 10th.
Got it,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you.
That'll be deferred 1 week then. We'll move on to item 39.
Item 39 is a resolution vacating a portion of the North Healy Lane right-of-way as shown on Exhibit A.
Mayor, Council. Items 39, 40, and 41 are right-of-way vacations in the DMI addition, which is in north central Sioux Falls, just west of the truck stop there by Cliff and I-90. In all 3 of these sections, there is currently no road there. It is one property owner, and they are looking to redevelop. Their plans have changed just a little bit, so they're going to realign some roads. So item 39 is North Healy Lane, just north of 60th Street North. The property owner submitted the right-of-way vacation pursuant to South Dakota law and the street vacation policy of the city. Neighborhood meeting was not required. There's, like I said, no road there currently. Back up. If the vacation is approved, an easement will not be reserved for public and private utilities. Like I said, approval of the vacation will aid in the development of the area. This particular one, the road will actually just be relocated to a 90-degree corner versus a little bit of the angle, which was shown in that yellow hatched area. Engineering does not have any concerns with the proposed vacation.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? All right, council, you have questions for Kurt on this vacation? All right, look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, move to approve by Kylie, that's seconded by Councilor Sale. Any discussion on it, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Item 40.
Item 40 is a resolution vacating the East Rogers Circle right-of-way east of North 4th Avenue as shown on Exhibit A.
This East Rogers Circle, this right-of-way is just a little bit west of Healing Lane, which was just approved. There's currently no road there, and the circled area is where the right-of-way sits. Again, property owner submitted pursuant to South Dakota law and the street vacation policy. Neighborhood meeting was not required. If the vacation is approved, an easement will not be reserved for public or private utilities. And again, this aid in the development of the area. Engineering does not have any concerns with the right-of-way vacation.
Thanks, Kurt. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Councilors, do you have any questions for Kurt on this? All right, look for a motion, please.
Move to approve. Second, Kylie.
All right, motion approved by Selberg, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion, council? All right, we'll take a vote.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 41 is a resolution vacating the North 4th Avenue right-of-way from the south right-of-way line of East Rogers Circle to the south right-of-way line of Interstate 90 as shown on Exhibit A.
It is working a little bit further to the west. This runs north and south, just off the end of East Rogers Circle. All of the same information, except for this one, there will be a easement reserved for public and private utilities. There is some drainage and sanitary sewer facilities that go up into this section, so there will be an easement reserved. That vacating the right-of-way just allows them to help develop that area. Picture of the area to be vacated. Again, there's no road there, so engineering does not have any concerns.
All right, thank you, Kurt. Anyone from the public who would like to speak to this item here? Councilors, do you have any questions for Kurt on this one?
Move approval, Erickson.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion approved by Erickson, seconded by Sale. Discussion, council?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Councilor Sale.
I'd like to address Kurt. If there's any problems with your assistant staying up after bedtime on a school night, he can reach out to any city council member and we'll write him an excuse for that.
I think he's hanging in there. That is not Adam Thielen.
Not yet.
And I question, must get his common sense from his mom, because I think he did wear a Bears shirt to the first day of school. So
Boo.
I don't know what he's thinking. But.
All right. Thank you. Let's take a vote on this one, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 42.
Item 42 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Annexation 10706, 2019, or Cuts Addition.
Hey, Albert.
Counselor, Mayor Albert Schmidt, City of Sioux Falls Planning and Development Services Office. This is for a petitioned annexation over on the west side. Applicant owner is currently Allen Homes. It's located near 12th Street and Ellis Road, south of 12th Street on the west side of Ellis Road. It represents about 42.1 acres, and the purpose is to develop this area into a residential subdivision. The concept plan is there in front of you. We're also, just to note, looking to annex the right-of-way for Ellis Road all the way to 12th Street, which we already have a maintenance agreement with the Minnehaha County Department of Transportation for.
Okay.
Take any questions. The applicant is here if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll take anything else.
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself. I didn't realize how close this was to my home.
You are recused. All right, is there anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Councilors, do you have any questions for Albert on this one? Councilor Nitzert?
Okay, so the current TLS Road construction ends pretty much where, if I'm looking at this right?
I believe.
Right about there it ends, I believe.
I believe you're correct.
That's where it narrows back down. So that stretch there, would you know, as part of this project, if we might see, at least on that side, would they continue the side path? Or would that road be improved? Or, I mean, it's already improved, but it's not the full build out that we're just finishing up. That's, the side paths basically run down and they end right there, and if one went all the way to 12th, that would be pretty cool, but.
So typically, any additional, it depends on how they did it, I believe. I'm speaking a little out of turn, so I apologize. It's an engineering project. But
Yeah.
typically, any development along right-of-way, as you develop, you install the improvements required at that time. If they did a side path that was above and beyond a typical sidewalk section, that might be a little different, but typically if it was a sidewalk section, you'd be required as you went along to actually put that in place, especially if it was an urbanized street.
It's bigger than what they normally be required, but I would sincerely hope that engineering would figure out how to work out if they pay their portion, we pay our portion, and we continue that. That side path is already getting amazing usage already, I can tell you, but that would be awesome. Now, okay. Yeah, I think that's, and it's going to be, where was the access? I didn't see the map real well.
So they're looking at having mainly one access off of Ellis Road there, kind of midpoint, you could see it there, then coming up also access from the south.
So that'll be a new access south of Stony, or north of Stony Creek.
North of Stony,
in
correct.
between Stony and 12th. Okay, very good. Great, thanks.
Look for a motion on this item.
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second, Kylie.
Motion approved by Nitzert, seconded by Councilor Kylie. Any discussion, council, on this? We'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Item 43.
Item 43 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Annexation 10909-2019, Arboretum and South Arrowhead Park area.
All right, Council. This is one where I'm going to try to cover two things at one time. 43 and 44 really are the same annexation petition, but because of how the Register of Deeds Office likes to have things to make it easier to file, we split them into two. So that's kind of why you're seeing what you're seeing today. So this area is an application, a joint application. Mainly the City of Sioux Falls is a majority property owner. There's 6 acres here owned by Brian and Pamela Hedman, who Brian should be intense as well if you have questions on that side of things. But this is located over on the east side of town, and it's at Big Sioux River and Arrowhead Parkway area. It's the Arboretum site, and it's also the south portion of the Arrowhead Park, kind of that main area there for that. It's this specific area, this portion of it represents 174 acres of the over 230 some acres that we're looking at tonight for this area. The purpose of this annexation is to incorporate the existing city park land with the abutting annexation lands that are already there. The annexation was originally planned on later on this year. We pushed that up to try to help out the private side of things, where we had a private development come forward through our joint procedure and thought that the development inside city limits with city services was a far better fit and a better long-term solution. So we moved up this portion and kind of split it into a double-phased approach on the annexation of this overall area. So that's why it kind of looks a little more piecemeal than probably it would have otherwise. Private property owners who are annexing represented by number 6 over here. That's 6 acres. And that's going to be looking to be built an event barn at that location, commercial property with event barn. It's kind of similar to the ones we've seen before, I talked about in that area. You can see here on this specific layout, this is a concept plan of kind of how that would lay out right now. Right now, looking at abundant number of or amount of land there for their patrons to use for pictures, overflow, those kind of things. But paved road, paved parking, and then a regular event barn there for us with meeting city standards. The annexation, again, is concurrent with the next one, which is petition number 10968, item 44. And then the future annexation, the phase 2, if you will, is going to be the county-owned land and maybe one city parcel that we're working on acquiring right now. So kind of the old East Sioux Falls location, and then 3 parcels that were recently acquired last week or through an agreement with the Coin Bank for the county. And so we'll be working with them going forward on that side of it as the phase 2 later on this year to really fill that area in for all the parkland, to kind of make it all the parkland area, say Sioux Falls. And one of the biggest drivers for this area, speaking to this one, 43 and 44, is getting Arrowhead Parkway annexed in all the way, basically to the river, so that as we're planning forward with engineering for the 5-6 year plan, and they look to redesign, rebuild, and do that process for Arrowhead Parkway in this area, that's all annexed in. We have all the jurisdiction that we need in that area, and also we are doing the maintenance on that area, just kind of making it a natural start and ending point for our maintenance crews on removing snow and regular maintenance on those roads.
All right. Thanks, Albert. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Bonnie Duffy. My particular property adjoins Arrowhead Park on River Bluff Road. A little history here. We bought that parcel from Dale and Dorothy Weir, who were good friends of my husband's family, also godparents to both my sons. We built our house there. We raised our sons there. I have some concerns. Years ago, and I sat in on several committee meetings with the city and the park department, when Dale and Dorothy agreed to give this parcel to the city and make it into a park, and that was their long-term dream because they never had any children of their own. We were in talks about actually asphalting the gravel road that has little or no maintenance, actually, from one park entrance to the other. At this time, nothing has been accomplished there at all. you know, from time to time I see the city out there, from time to time I see the township out there. I don't know whose jurisdiction it is and who should be maintaining it. But I will let you know that with the park there, we have a lot of traffic now, more than we've ever had before. Beautiful place to live. If you've been out there, it's unimaginable. My other concern is safety out there. There's always been a problem of jurisdiction. Is if the sheriff's department's jurisdiction to take care of items out there that is a big concern, you know, with people in the park that shouldn't be there. Same thing with, should it be the police department of the city of Sioux Falls? We've never had a direct answer with that one either. The problem is, you know, we have quarries out there. There's also sort of a man-made lake that Dale made just to the east of me. It's right in between our properties. My husband the other night actually deterred some, we believe there are kids in there with flashlights. When it's dark out there, folks, it's dark. My concern there is for somebody maybe falling in. You know, when the park department took this over, I only have one more thing. We did put gates on both entrances. And at first, they were very diligent about locking those gates. And there was a time frame on that. I think it was 10 o'clock. For years now, we have not had that. And so all hours of the night, we hear all kinds of stuff going on. Because I can see and I can hear. I mean, news travels voices travel. And like I said, the other night, my husband yelled at some kids to get out of there because it was dark and that they had no business being in there. The park was closed. So those are the main concerns I have there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Albert on this item? Councilor Staley?
Albert, so is Dale Weir's house, is that part of the annexation plan?
There's only one private property being annexed with either 43 or 44, and that's the event barn property. All other properties owned by the city of Sioux Falls.
Okay.
Other questions for Albert? Councilor Kiley?
Albert, the little sliver that's up in the northwest of parcel 4, I'm assuming that it's contiguous, so there must be a little sliver adjacent to the river that leads us to that point.
Yeah, that's actually part of parcel 4. It's real narrow there, then gets a little wider there as the river gets up there.
Okay, so we own riverfront along there too.
Beautiful riverfront property.
Thank you.
Other questions for Albert on this? All right, is there a motion to be made on it?
Move to approve.
Second, Albert.
All right, motion approved by Kiley, seconded by Selberg. Discussion on this, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 44.
Item 44 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Annexation 10968, 2019, North Arrowhead Park area.
So continuation of 43, I'll just make quick comments for you, especially to just kind of comment real quickly on some of the other comments. You'll notice we're annexing the right-of-way for Arrowhead Parkway, but we're not annexing the River Bluff Road that kind of goes into the neighborhood down there. We want to keep that the same agreement that they have in there now, which, just for your own knowledge, as far as I'm aware, it's an informal agreement between the city of Sioux Falls and the township. It's a township road, but the city recognizes there's city traffic on there, and so they do an informal agreement through that to help out with certain maintenance on that road. That's about as detailed answer as I can give you, unfortunately, today, but that's where we're at with that. When you look at this map, it's a little different than the other one. There's some darker properties in there, which I will just tell you to note, those are not being annexed, but whenever you annex right away adjacent to property that you're not annexing, they typically want you to identify those properties so that they have something to file that annexation of the right-of-way with, so that you know exactly what was and was not annexed. So again, no private property owners in this one are being annexed, only City of Sioux Falls property.
Okay, thank you, Albert. Anyone from the public would like to speak to this item tonight? Councilors, do you have questions for Albert on this one? Councilor Starr?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Albert, we need a written agreement. We need to get that written down with the township so there's no, you know, what gets us in trouble is when we have informal agreements and somebody said and things change, and it's never the group of people that are around right now, it's the next generation or the next group that goes with it as township boards turn over and city employees turn over. So I would encourage the planning department and to, let's get something in writing and get it taken care of.
We'll encourage street departments to work on that with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Albert on this one? Look for a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Selberg, seconded by Erickson. Discussion, council? Okay, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-0. Item 45.
Item 45 is a resolution approving the release of a permanent sump pump easement located in Lot 7, Block 3 of Whisper Ridge Addition to the City of Sioux Falls, Lincoln County, South Dakota.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The easement to be released is in the Whisper Ridge Addition near 57th and Southeastern Avenue. Earhart Griffin and Associates, on behalf of the owner, has requested the release. The existing sump pump collection infrastructure is going to be relocated. As you can see, it kind of sits mid-lot and is affecting what they want to do with the lot, their building project. So we're working with them to relocate the infrastructure and create a new easement, which would be closer to the property line and the railroad. Release of the easement will just, again, will aid in that development of the parcel. Engineering office recommends approval.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Council, do you have questions for Kurt on it? Councilor Kylie?
Kurt, where is it located on the adjoining parcels?
It comes, I don't have it. It comes straight through there. It just, however, Lot 6A constructed their home. It didn't affect them. It will jog, instead of going straight up like it does now, it will jog to the west and run more along the property line.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Kurt on this? Councilor Nitzert?
I assume they move that at their cost and then we just inspect it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, look for a motion on this item.
Move to approve.
Second, Nitzert.
All right, motion approved by Kylie, seconded by Nitzert. Any discussion, council? We will vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Erickson? Kylie? Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-0. Council, is there any new business?
Move to adjourn, Star.
Second,
All right,
Nitzert.
motion to adjourn by Starr, seconded by Nitzert. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Our meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.